Well, welcome to your daily dose of salt and light with myself, Nadine Ness. Today, I probably have one of my most interest guests so far, and that is someone who's running to be the next Prime Minister of Canada. If you don't know, there is a Liberal leadership race happening right now, and we have the pleasure of having one of the guests who I hope, if out of all the ones running, I truly hope she's the one who wins, and that is Doctor. I'm gonna call her Doctor. I didn't ask her if she wanted me to, but my husband's a doctor, and he always says if somebody's a doctor, you call them doctor. So I'm gonna call her Dr. Ruby Dhalla. If you don't follow her already, this is her Twitter account, and with that, I'm gonna be bringing her up here. Thank you so much, Ruby, for coming on my show.
Thank you, Nadine. I'm a big supporter, of women, and I believe women, uniting with each other, supporting each other, can achieve so much. And congratulations to you for your podcast and all the great work that you've done and your achievements. And it's a pleasure to join you today.
Thank you so much for coming on. So, with that, one of the questions that I always think is the most important when somebody's running for office, that is the reason behind why they are running. So what's your reason for running for office with or I guess you've already ran for office. You were a Liberal MP in the past, and I think believe between 2004 and 2011, correct me if I'm wrong. And but now you've decided to run for the country, and I'm glad you are, because the other options I don't really like. You seem to be the one that I like the most out of all of them. But what made you decide to run for office?
I think that, as you've shared, that you have found me, the best option out of all of the other candidates. There are millions of Canadians and thousands of people within our party that also feel the same. First of all, when I was actually in grade 5 and my teacher asked me what I wanted to be when I grow up, I actually had written on a piece of paper that my mom still has that I want to be the Prime Minister of Canada one day. So I think subconsciously and serendipitously, I probably have been manifesting this, because when I launched, anyone that I spoke to, either that I was growing up with, even in grade school, or my high school friends or different teachers throughout my journey, each of them shared stories and moments with me where I had said that one day I'm going to be the Prime Minister of Canada. And I'm a big believer in the book, The Secret, of ask for it, believe it, and receive it. So that's probably that manifestation and having that vision. It's been on my vision board since I was young, and I've carried it through. But when it comes down to talking about this particular leadership race, to become the leader of the Liberal Party and Canada's next Prime Minister, I entered the race because I thought that it was the need of the hour. I had phone calls from thousands of people, that I have worked with throughout my journey. And many of those individuals, depending upon how they knew me as a doctor, or as a businesswoman, or through politics, thought I would be able, to add a very, very strong voice into this race. Firstly and foremost, I thought that it was so vital and so important to bring our party back to the center, back to talking about real solutions, so that we could actually start delivering some real results for the challenges that Canadians are going through. Secondly, the importance of returning our party back into the hands of the membership and the grassroots, because they have felt shut out for so many years now, and they really wanted to have their voice heard, their ideas and suggestions, and just, everyone wanted to contribute. And having a sort of a closed door policy for the Liberal Party over the past many years has really shut out a lot of people, and people that have been with the party, like myself, since the age of 14, during the Chrétien and Paul Martin years, were just feeling excluded, and they wanted to have a voice at the table who was going to have inclusivity as a part of their platform. When it comes more broadly to becoming Prime Minister of the country, I believe as a doctor, I have developed great insight into our healthcare crisis that we have. We take a look at the struggle that Canadians have when they're going to hospitals and having to wait for hours and hours because there's just no beds available. Or if they need an appointment with a specialist, they have to wait for months and months. As a self-made businesswoman, I am very acutely aware because I have been living through many of the challenges that business owners and entrepreneurs in our country are facing when it comes to creating jobs and the overburden of taxation that we face, not only at a corporate level, but also at a personal income tax level. And then, as you shared, being a three-time, member of parliament, I have the legislative experience that is required, to ensure that I have the ability to navigate through some of the many challenges that our nation is facing. I am battle tested. I'm battle ready. I've done 4 election campaigns, and they haven't been your normal, typical election campaigns. They've been full on, full fledged wars or battles, if you call it. And so I am battle tested. And then last but not least, when we took a look, my team and I, at all of the candidates that were running, all of the current candidates, the 4 of them, have all been involved in the current administration, either as an advisor or a minister or a member of parliament. I, Ruby Della is actually the only fresh face, the only one that is bringing a fresh vision and bringing fresh ideas to this race. And I believe that's what Canadians are looking for. They don't want Trudeau 2.0. They don't want to go back to the same old. They want someone who has the leadership, someone who is bold in their thinking and has experience to really be able to deliver results for all Canadians and the challenges that they face.
With that, one of the biggest things that so I'm going to speak mostly for my viewers in the West. One of the things that we face is often decisions made in Ottawa affects us even greater in the West, and we haven't felt represented. There's a lot of resentment. There's a lot of, and I would say too, a momentum for the West, Alberta, Saskatchewan to separate from Canada. How do you plan on addressing those issues if you want to, I guess, unite a Canada? How would you make it so that the West feel represented?
Well, first of all, I myself am a Westerner. I was born and raised in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and most of my summer vacations were actually spent, driving with our family all the way from Winnipeg, all the way, to out west. So I have been to not only the bigger cities, that we always talk about, but some of the very small communities, some of the smaller towns in Western Canada. So I'm very aware of the needs that so many people from Western Canada have, and whether one is in Saskatchewan or Alberta, in British Columbia, each province and each of the people living there all have their own needs. But the one thing that the West has that the rest of our country is in agreement with is the natural resources, and we need to start ensuring that we provide the support that the business community and the provinces need to really allow for them to utilize the natural resources that they have to really benefit and contribute to their economies. Why is it that all of these years later, we still don't have a pipeline built? Well, that's the need of the hour, that the provinces have been demanding for many, many years. And the premiers of those respective provinces have been very strong, very firm advocates. Well, I can assure you that with Ruby Dalla as Prime Minister, the West will not only be heard, but the West will actually get many of the results that they have been talking about, and promised for so many years. Because when I run my business, I always focus it on productivity and results. And as Prime Minister, I intend to deliver the same. Having the pipeline built is very important. We take a look at Alberta specifically when it comes, to the oil reserves that they have in the oil sands. With Ruby Dalla as Prime Minister, Alberta will start to have its oil flow. When we take a look at British Columbia, with lumber, it's the one of the largest industries in the world. We need to ensure we start telling the Canadian story. The West just has so much to offer. It's about time we have a prime minister, who is going to take real action to start allowing contribution and strengthening of the Western economy.
Thank you so much. And with that, that same kind of along the same kind of line, there's been a lot of talks with the US and the tariffs and Trump saying that Canada is going to become the 51st state. You've given it right back to him and you said maybe the US should become the next premier, Trump should become the next premier. How do you plan on addressing the tariff, because it would affect all of Canada. It would also affect really greatly Saskatchewan and Alberta. And I think going into potentially another election, or even just with who's going to win this next leadership race, they're going to be the next premier. How do you plan on addressing this very real thing that's on the back of the mind of pretty much every voter?
It is definitely a major concern for, our entire country and so many Canadian businesses, Canadian industries, and Canadian families. And I hope from hearing me that they can have faith, because Ruby Dalla is not one to be bullied, not one to ever be threatened. And I am here to ensure that I stand up for Canadians, that I fight for Canada. Donald Trump is a businessman. I'm a businesswoman. And the one business acumen trait that you learn in business is the ability to negotiate a deal. And that is why I have so much confidence knowing that I will have and can and will negotiate the best deal for Canadians and for Canada. In my business, I deal with many Donald Trump personalities in the world. And that's why when Donald Trump, has had this musing that he has been doing, and every opportunity that he gets, whether it's from the Oval Office or his press conferences, or anywhere even in between, like in front of the tarmac before he was boarding his flight, he always wants to slip in there that, he wants Canada to become the 51st state. And he has been busy going around calling, our current prime minister the governor. Well, when I went on to the American shows and they were asking me how I would deal with the situation between the U.S. and Canada, after giving them the response of the importance of us having to work out and reach a deal which is going to benefit both economies, both citizens of both countries, I did say to them when they asked me specifically about the 51st state comment that, do you know what, as prime minister, I would actually invite Mr. Trump to join Canada and take your pick. You want to be the 11th province or the 4th territory, because we have the second largest landmass in the world. And instead of saying President Trump, I will be more than happy to call you Premier Trump. So that has been trending all over, the US and all over Twitter. But that is playground conversation. And someone with the stature that Mr. Trump has as president, that certainly doesn't do justice. So I think it's time to sit down, to start talking, not about conversation that kids would have in a sandbox, but actually let's get down to business. Let's ensure that we start talking about the very real issues, because America and Canada have been great friends, but they at the same time cannot take our kindness as a weakness. I will not, I'll tell you one thing, allow as prime minister to ever let any foreign leader hijack our economy. I would never allow as prime minister for our economy to ever be held at the mercy of any foreign leader. And I would also not allow for us to put all of our eggs in one basket and invest and bet everything we have onto the US. And I will certainly not be asleep at the wheel, because I don't know what's been going on for the past 10 years. But when I run my business, I have plan A, B, C, and D, and everything is thought out so well in advance. And that's why I don't understand for the candidates that are currently running in this Liberal leadership race. They were the advisors or the ministers or the MPs. Like, were they asleep at the wheel? And even when it comes to Mr. Carney, every event I go to, if someone talks about him, they talk about all of these amazing degrees that he has. If someone is so incredibly smart because they've gone to all of these fancy universities, I don't understand how you couldn't foresee this coming and that there wouldn't be a plan in place. And here we are as a country and as Canadians left scrambling. I wouldn't tolerate that under my leadership, because I would have a plan that would have been thought of much before Mr. Trump came in and made this decision of the tariff tax of 25%.
With that, so it takes a little bit for people in case you don't know to I there's an echo, so I have to mute myself. So if you don't hear me talk when she's talking, it's because we're trying to get it so it doesn't echo. So it takes me like 2 seconds to switch it up. With that, if you win, do you plan on having an election right away, or are you going to be putting it off as long as possible? I think a lot of people want to know that question. And I won't lie, most of my viewers are of conservative leaning. I'm from Saskatchewan. So I know Mark Carney, or there's been discussion if he was to win, he's going to try to do it now while the momentum is hot from the leadership race. Is that your plan, or what is your plan if you win the Liberal Party leadership race and become the next prime minister?
Well, each of the leadership candidates, I think, speak to what they think is best, but ultimately it's who can you really trust to deliver on that plan. I have said all along that Canadians do want to have an election. I think those wishes should be honored, and Parliament is supposed to reconvene on the 24th. And I think the opposition parties have made it very clear that they want to go to an election sooner than later. And once that happens, whatever the wish is of Parliament, of Canadians, I'm willing to move forward on that. I am battle tested, battle ready, and I'm ready to go for the next election campaign.
Per Perfect. Sorry. Again, it takes a little bit to switch it up. And I think that was one of the questions that I had in the back of my mind. And I know some of our listeners too. And if you're listening, let us know where you're listening from. And if you have questions for Ruby as well, if time permits, we have probably another 10 minutes. If time permits, we'll hopefully be able to ask some of the viewers question. One of the things that we've noticed is in Canada under Trudeau's leadership, been a rise in hate, all sorts of hate. But with that, there's one group that been the subject of the most hate, and those are the Jews. What is your take on the anti-Semitism we're witnessing in Canada, and what do you plan on doing to try to I guess stop that from happening, or tackle that aspect?
Well, first of all, as the Prime Minister of our country, I would have zero tolerance for any type of hate crime. I would have zero tolerance for any type of violence against any Canadian based on their religious beliefs or their religion itself. And the rise of anti Semitism in our country is very disturbing. I think it is incredibly important, first of all, to have leadership which has a zero tolerance policy for this. I have many Jewish, personal friends, very, very close friends. And I also have a lot of people on my campaign team, in addition to the businesses that I run, that are from the Jewish community. And when I hear about some of the stories where they personally have encountered that, it just sort of it pulls at your heartstrings, because we live in Canada and this should not be happening. And so we need to have leadership that is going to say, listen, this is zero tolerance. We, will not allow, and I will not allow at all, any type of attacks based on the religious beliefs and these hate crimes that are on a rise, and not just with the Jewish community, but with so many other faiths as well. I think that education is key. It's important that we start educating, the children at a young age, in regards to the respect that we have in our country for people of different religious faiths and different faiths and different religious beliefs. I think education is the key to that, and I also think that we need to have legislation in place, from our in regards to our legal sort of process that we have to ensure that this is also not going to be allowed. So I think when we toughen up our judicial system, when we provide education, I would hope that in the coming years that we would have absolutely no hate crimes occurring in Canada.
One of the other things that seem to be like on the back of the mind of everyone, especially with this current administration, the Trudeau government, is the amount of scandals that they've gone through and been able to get through it all. There's a lot of concerns about the corruption and the spending that kind of goes through a back door and potentially comes back at them. You're seeing that a lot being discussed in the US with the USAID. There's been a lot getting uncovered in Canada through Global Affairs Canada. What steps would you take to for transparency in government? Would you be willing to open up all the books? Because right now there's a lot of distrust in the Liberal government because of Trudeau and his actions and the actions of some of their minister. What steps are you willing to take?
Well, you talk about this mistrust that people have, and that's why I can't understand for the life of me, given that mistrust, given the fact of, the record, that people feel that the current administration has, why they just continue to, promote Mr. Carney, because what was really the point of having a leadership race if we're going to have a coronation like this? That's why I have spent, time and energy and effort in my campaign talking about policy initiatives, talking about real ideas that are going to deliver results for Canadians. If people want a Trudeau 2.0, then they're going to go down the path of Mr. Carney. If people want someone who is going to deliver change, who's going to deliver results, then it's very important to support an individual like myself for this leadership and to become Prime Minister of our country. When it comes to transparency and accountability, they are just fundamental to who I am as a person. I believe that it's important to know, to provide that honesty to people. Ultimately, any dollars that are being spent in government are taxpayer dollars. And I always talk about this concept of a value for tax, whereby, Canadians, everyone's paying tax, and whoever does pay tax, they need to know what their money is going towards. So I think that transparency and accountability is very important. I can tell you, utilizing my business background, that I would have a complete review of many of the departments and the systems that we have in government to really identify where is there wastage occurring, because under my government, under a Dhalla administration, I would want to ensure that we have completely cut out all the fat, cut out all the spending, that is being wasted. Wherever there are inefficiencies, a Dhalla administration would ensure that we start addressing those inefficiencies and really create streamlined operations, because ultimately it's about delivering taxpayers with the best value or best bang for their buck.
Thank you for that answer. So it'd be good to know that there'd be an audit done. I almost want to see a Doge level audit, and I think a lot of Canadians do too. And this kind of brought to my mind one of the questions. You're a business person, so one of the things I like, our organization and basically what I do now was started during a time that was very divisive during COVID, and it's one of the stains on Trudeau's government, the way he proceeded. Sorry, this wasn't one of the questions, it just was coming up.
Okay.
There was so much harm done during the COVID time for everyone on all sides. But as a business person, and even just witnessing what Trudeau did, um, ja- um, freezing the bank accounts and such, which if something was to happen again like that, have you thought about how you would address it as a person? I know what Carney would do. He would be the same as Trudeau, if not worse. I think he would actually be worse. And we have huge concerns about someone abusing their authority as the prime minister. But you don't seem to fall kind of along the same lines as them. It seems that you're more pro liberty, like the old school liberal. Is that who you are?
It is who I am, because I think when I speak, when I talk about policy initiatives and solutions, I just base it on what I have heard, because I've been living in the real world. I don't haven't lived in the Ottawa bubble for the last 10 years. I have my ear to the ground. With people from all over the country. I've done a tremendous amount of philanthropy and charity work. I've dedicated my life to public service, and I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I did not go to Harvard, and I haven't been to Oxford, even though I was a Rhodes Scholar nominee. But I went very proudly to university in Winnipeg and McMaster in Ontario and the Canadian Chiropractic College, and so I'm born and bred Canadian. I haven't lived and worked outside of the country for the last 10 years, and maybe that's why people just find me really authentic and they find me real and genuine, because I'm not doing this for a job. I'm really doing this to give a voice to millions of Canadians that want someone who can, connect with them, understand them, be their voice, be their champion, and ultimately deliver results for them, because there's just too many people that are struggling to make ends meet. And I want people to once again start having faith, in their political leadership, that there is someone who's going to be their voice and who's going to be their champion at the table.
And with that, the last questions we're going to take will be one from the viewers. Um, Gail Lynn says, what is she planning on doing with this carbon tax BS, government overspending, and immigration? It kind of covers it all.
Well, the first part of the BS on carbon tax, Ruby Dhalla, as Prime Minister, is going to end the carbon tax on her first day of taking office. So I think the results come in March the 9th, and I would assume that March the 10th is going to be the start of the Dhalla administration, and I would have that ended on day one. When it comes to the overspending that is occurring in government departments, you can bet your last penny that I will utilize my business experience to start doing a complete overhaul and review of our systems that are there to really take out waste, to ensure that we have efficiency, we have streamlined operations, and most importantly, that every department is delivering results for our country. And, last but not least, I know that the question was on immigration as well. I believe that we need to have a planned immigration. I am pro immigration. I'm the daughter of immigrant parents. Immigration is at the heart of who we are as a country, but we need to ensure that when we plan immigration targets, that we also have in alignment, the necessary infrastructure, the healthcare systems, the housing. Everything's got to run parallel. We can't be setting, immigration targets, inviting people here, and then every second week, be changing the announcements. I can't even keep track of how many times there's been changes to what the policies are. It's not fair, and it's an unjust to those that are coming in, and also to, Canadian businesses, and, to our country. So we need to ensure that our policies are thought out, that we have a plan, both short term and long term. And I have stated, for anyone that is here illegally, if they are here illegally, they've gone through a due process, it's been determined after the due process that they're still here illegally, then I would have them deported. But if people have come here legally through family reunification, through student visas, work permits, the economic investment into our country, we're open for that. But if you haven't come through the correct channels and still remain to be here after going through that due process, then I have made that stand very clear. I do want to say, in closing, because time is running out, it is so important to have a leader who is going to be able to understand Canadians, the struggles that they're going through on a day-to-day basis. We have a massive issue of affordability in our country. Some people are working one, two, even three jobs, and they're still struggling, to pay their rent or to pay their mortgage bill. The grocery prices have escalated. People are struggling to put food on the table. The crime in our country is at an all-time high. And I think that it's really important to have a leader who is, hasn't been born with a silver spoon, is actually aware of those types of challenges, and is really committed to get the job done, to deliver results, so that Canadians can start putting more money into their pockets instead of paying everything they have, to tax. Under a Dhalla administration, I would ensure that we would have a complete evaluation and review done of our tax system in our country, both corporate and personal income tax, to ensure that people and Canadians are getting value for their money.
And just one last question. If you were to compare yourself to any prime minister in the past, which one would you say you're the most like? Obviously, we can't really go, you're a woman, but if you were to compare yourself to a liberal prime minister.
I said we need to have more options here, Nadine, because it was so funny. Someone the other day, actually, I think it was on Twitter, someone made this graph, and it was like of all men, and then there was Kim Campbell, obviously, that we had for a short time, and they went and put my face, in it, and said Ruby Della will be the second female prime minister, and also one of the first that would be from an immigrant community. So when it comes to comparison, I think that each prime minister of our country has added value in terms of their service. Politics is a tough job. It's not so easy as people it may seem. And but I think if I were to compare, it would probably be a combination of Chrétien and Paul Martin. Paul Martin for his business and his economic acumen, and Chrétien just because such a great sense of humor with what he's doing, but he was just really connected to people, and that my journey speaks to that because I am where I am today from a lot of hard work, a lot of drive, and I've built myself from the ground up. And I grew up in the north end of Winnipeg, which is one of the lowest socioeconomic demographics in our country, and who would have ever imagined that one day I would be running for our country's top job? So I'm very blessed to God and very blessed to the great country that we have because Canada is a land of opportunity where dreams come true.
Thank you so much for coming on my show. I know you have another event happening shortly
Yes.
after, so I will let you go. And thank you again. And hopefully, out of candidates, I hope you're the one that wins in the next couple weeks.
And Nadine, I just want to say thank you so much again for having me on. I'm a big promoter of all women, and I just think it's excellent to see some of your achievements and the work that you're doing. And stay blessed. And thank you so much for your support. And let's go make this happen on March the 9th. Let's make history by electing Ruby Dhalla as the next prime minister in our country.
All right. Thank you so much. You have a good day.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Wow. So really interesting. I have to say, I'm a little bit confused. She sounds a little bit more like a conservative than she does the Liberal Party. If you were to compare the current direction the Liberal Party has gone in, the reason I brought Ruby Dalla in, I know there was a lot of conservative I guess, voices in Canada that were encouraging people to take part in the democratic processes that we have in Canada. And some of that was take part through the leadership race. So I guess they wanted the other, I can't remember the name of the other candidate that was running. But with that, I thought I didn't promote the same thing. Like I said, my values don't really align with the Liberal Party. So I couldn't check the box that I um, I align with their values. It's a box that was asked. However, I know that there's a lot of people, even in Saskatchewan, Alberta, who did get a membership. And if I can influence even just a little bit, Mark Carney not getting in, I am really concerned about Mark Carney becoming the next Prime Minister of Canada. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that doesn't happen. And if that means help spreading the word of a potential other candidate as in Ruby Dalla, I will do that. And I like her ideas too, or what she said. If she does win, she will listen to the people and have an election right away. I just find that refreshing. I didn't know that was going to be her answer, and I was surprised by it. But how often is it politicians listen to this what the people want, especially if that potentially means she won't be the next prime minister after the next election? So I don't know. What do you guys think? Shane Wenzel said it's hard to believe she's a liberal. It is. I completely agree. And I see another question here that I didn't get a chance to ask. I'm just thankful that she came on. And I try to get very interesting guests to come on. Most of them have been conservative. So this was the first liberal candidate that I had to come on the show. But I was pleasantly surprised. So I don't know if you guys were along the same thing, but just imagine if she wins, she does a new election. To be honest, with the way things are polling, I don't think that if we had another election that she would be elected prime minister again. However, if she's going to have an election right away, I much prefer that over Carney potentially invoking the Emergency Act and then pushing the election back to 2026, because that's a possibility. So if you're one of those people who did get a membership to the Liberal Party, I would highly suggest going in that direction. But yeah, Rose said, "So glad she got some airtime. I'm impressed." And I will say, like, there wasn't anything, obviously she's a politician. like all politicians, they do talk like politician, but her personality did shine through. And I think if I was to meet her at a coffee shop and stuff, I'd invite her to stay over. I could actually see her and I potentially becoming friends. So I was impressed by her answers. So again, if you are one of those people that got a membership, I hope you she gets your support. There is a chance. I know some of the comments said there's no chance she's winning. Everything's behind Carney. I've witnessed that happen in real time where the entire party is behind a candidate, but the grassroots show up. And I should have asked her. I wanted to ask what what the processes was if they had like secondary ballot, like third, like kind of like the Conservative Party membership. You would pick your ultimate goal, and then there was second vote, third vote. I don't know if that's happening with the Liberal Leadership Party, but if it is, let's say everyone, Karina Gould, uh, Chrystia Freeland, and the other candidates, let's say they don't put Mark Carney as their secondary. Let's say they put Ruby Dhalla. What if she wins because she's everyone's second and third choice? There is a possibility. And I have to say I would much prefer that over Mark Carney. I've expressed over and over again how I really don't trust the man. And but yeah, let me know what you guys think. Hopefully, I think the election, she said March 7th. So that's what, 3 weeks away? If I had bought a party membership to the Liberal Party, I would be voting for her. So that's 2.5 weeks away. So if you know someone who has, send them this interview, share it with them, and maybe they'll show up and vote. It'd be quite interesting. But yeah, also, I don't have a show planned for the next week, the rest of the week. If you were watching last week, I suggested I might be going to Washington D.C. I have booked my flights to Washington D.C. I fly out tomorrow, so at 7 a.m. So I won't be having a show tomorrow. I'll be throughout the airport. I will bring my laptop, so I might, if there's a lot happening, I might have a show. I am going to bring some of my equipments as well if I meet someone there that's interesting that I might want to do an interview. So there might be content put out in the next 4 days while I'm in DC. I'm actually there until the following Monday. So if you're watching for a show, don't expect one until Tuesday. Here, I'm just trying to bring up the day. Tuesday, the 25th of February. So for about a week. So I might, like I said, I'm going to bring my laptop. I'm going to bring my equipment. So there might be a chance that I'll do an interview. But if I don't, it's just because I'm so busy meeting people and networking. And that's the reason why I'm going. I want to, it's a conservative conference. It's CPAC. I'll see if I can bring it up here. I just want to make sure I get the name properly. I think it stands for Conservative Political Action Committee. CPAC is also like it where you watch political stuff. Like they have a TV and they'll play Parliament and stuff like that. But yeah, they're having the biggest conservative event, and it's not just for the US. It's actually a global conservative event. It's the biggest one worldwide. So there should be maybe Canadians there as well, and some from Europe as well. So we'll see how it goes. I'm hoping I'll meet interesting people that I can bring onto the show, and yeah, make some friends, and to be honest, to escape a little bit the minus 40 that it's been the last few weeks. But I hear while I'm going to be gone, the warm weather's going to come back and we're going to be in the pluses next week. So yeah, no show tomorrow. I might be able to come on. The conference doesn't start till Thursday. So Wednesday I might be able to do a show from DC from my hotel room. I just haven't decided what all I'll be doing. I might even go and check out the sites and go to the not the White House. You can't go to the White House, but there's a lot of government buildings there. So I'll see if I can go to some of them. And if you're watching here and you normally watch on Rumble, for some reason, one Rumble wouldn't work today. So thanks for coming on the other platform to watch. And again, my show is earlier than usual. Usually my show starts at 12. However, there was confusion with the time difference. So I had to get ready really, really fast for the show because we got confused with the time difference. So that's why it started an hour early. So thankfully I was able to get ready quite fast. But yeah, so I will see you guys not any time this week, but on Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. But have a good day. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comments of Ruby. Do you think she has a chance in winning? And if she does, do you think she's going to be good for the short time that she's the next prime minister, or do you think she has a chance at winning the next election? It almost seems like a lot of her platform are very similar to the conservative movement, and I'm wondering if she doesn't win the leadership race, would she plan on running as an independent? It's not really something you see very often in Canada. But yeah, let me know what you think, guys. Have a good day.